Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dong Shang. The North Korea's official Korean Central News Agency said on Tuesday that leader Kim Jong Un called for stronger unity and cooperation with China in the face of challenges posed by hostile forces while exchanging messages with Chinese President Xi Jinping. According to China's Xinhua news agency, Xi, in his own message to Kim, described the bilateral relation as a valuable asset to both countries and vowed to make unspecified contributions to the peace and the stability on the Korean Peninsula. Xi also expressed a commitment to provide the peoples of the two countries with better life. Some analysts saw this as an indication that China would soon provide North Korea with badly needed food, fertilizer, and other aid that had been significantly reduced amid the pandemic border closures. The exchange came as the Biden administration steps up diplomatic efforts to strengthen cooperation with Asian allies South Korea and Japan to deal with the North Korean nuclear threat and China's growing regional influence. Top U.S. and Chinese officials traded sharp and unusually public bobs in Alaska last week in their first face-to-face meetings since President Joe Biden took office, where Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Washington is united with its allies in pushing back against Chinese authoritarianism. The contentious talks in Anchorage came after Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin traveled to Japan and South Korea for talks that mainly focused on North Korea and China. During his visit to Seoul, Blinken sternly criticized North Korea's nuclear ambitions and human rights record and pressed China to use its tremendous influence to convince the North to denuclearize. The North has so far ignored the Biden administration's effort to reach out, saying it won't engage in meaningful talks with the U.S. unless Washington abandons what Pyongyang sees as hostile policies, which clearly refers to the U.S.-led sanctions and the pressure over its nuclear program. Seong-Chang, director of North Korea studies at South Korea's private Sejong Institute, said Kim's message to Xi was clearly in response to last week's visits by Blinken and Lloyd to Japan and South Korea, which signaled the start of the Biden administration's effort to create a coordinated approach with its allies on North Korea. Cheong said it was notable that Xi did not publicly express his support for Kim's stated plans to expand the North's nuclear capabilities and instead stressed regional stability. This shows China prefers diplomacy over a revival of tensions in the Korean Peninsula, and despite its friction with the United States, could still endorse a resumption of talks between Washington and Pyongyang, he said. The meetings in Anchorage reflected increasingly troubled relations between the U.S. and China, which are at odds over a range of issues from trade to human rights in Tibet, Hong Kong, and China's western Xinjiang region, as well as over Taiwan, China's assertiveness in the South China Sea, and the coronavirus pandemic. Responding to Blinken's criticism about his government, Communist Party Foreign Affairs Chief Yang Jiechi said Beijing had no intention to back down on any issue and that the U.S. should stop pushing its own version of democracy at a time when America itself has been roiled by domestic discontent. As North Korea pursued diplomacy with the U.S. starting in 2018, it also worked to strengthen relations with China. But Kim has nothing to show for his ambitious summits with then-President Donald Trump, which collapsed in 2019 over disagreements in exchanging the release of crippling U.S.-led sanctions against North Korea and the North disarmament steps. The North's economic woes have been compounded by pandemic border closures and the devastating natural disasters that wiped out crops last summer. At a ruling party congress in January, Kim vowed to further expand the North nuclear program and urged his people to be resilient in the struggle for economic self-reliance. South Korea's spy agency told lawmakers late last year that North Korea's trade volume with China fell by 75% during the first 10 months of 2020. That led to a shortage of raw materials that plunged North's factory operations to their lowest level since Kim took power in late 2011, and a jump in the prices of imported foods like sugar and seasonings. On Tuesday, the foreign ministers of China and Russia affirmed their countries' close ties at a meeting. Tuesday, Wang Yi and Sergei Lavrov rejected outside snipping at their authoritarian political systems and said they were working to further global progress on issues from climate change to the COVID-19 pandemic. At the initial meeting in the southern Chinese city of Nanning on Monday, Wang and Lavrov accused the United States of interference in other countries' affairs and urged it to rejoin the Iran nuclear agreement, something that U.S. President Joe Biden's new administration has approached cautiously. Russia and China both maintain close relations with Tehran, with which they share a firm approach against any political opposition. The two officials continued that rhetoric at a news conference on Tuesday, where Wang sharply criticized the coordinated sanctions brought by the European Union, Britain, Canada, and the US against the Chinese officials over human rights abuses in China's far western Xinjiang region. China says members of the Uyghur and their Muslim minority groups in Xinjiang have voluntarily taken part in job training and de-radicalization courses, denying charges that more than 1 million have been locked up in prison-like re-education camps where they are forced to reject their native culture and pledge loyalty to the ruling Communist Party and its leader Xi Jinping. Media outlets, foreign governments, and activist groups say abuses, including forced labor and coerced birth control, are ongoing. China responded immediately Monday to the EU's move by imposing sanctions on 10 European individuals and 4 institutions. They were barred from visiting mainland China, Hong Kong, and Macau, and banned from engaging in financial dealings with Chinese institutions. China and Russia were rivals for leadership of the communist world during the Cold War, but have built a strong relationship in recent years based on opposition to the US-led liberal order and cooperation in military affairs, technology, and trade in natural resources. Whenever the US shows weakness, China will take advantage. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I will see you again shortly.